I've worked the graveyard shift for years, thought I'd seen it all. Then one night, a customer showed up, and everything changed. I'll never forget her, but I wish I could. Back in my senior year of high school, I worked nights at a drive-thru coffee hut called El Cafecito. Not a cafe, a hut. A one-person shack. No indoor seating, no front door, just a sliding window for the occasional night shift worker rolling in from the packaging plant down the road. Take orders, hand over drinks, keep your head down. Easy enough. I was a skinny kid, but this working-class town prepared me to be tough. I could always handle the occasional drunk, aggressive, or overworked customer. Until one night. It was 2:40 a.m. No cars, just dead silence and a light drizzle on the tin roof of the coffee hut. I remember rinsing out a milk pitcher, completely exhausted because I had just pulled an all-nighter on a school project and then came straight to work. I just couldn't afford to miss another shift. My mom and I needed the money. We didn't have much and it was just her and I, so I had to do my part to pitch in on bills. Then I heard it. Footsteps. People usually don't walk up to the window. Not in this part of town, especially not at this hour. She came out of the darkness like she'd always belonged there. A young woman, about my age, scuffed Converse, an oversized hoodie, no car, no umbrella, just standing in the rain. She didn't look scared or high. She looked focused. "Can I help you?" I asked. She nodded slowly, still staring, like she recognized me but couldn't place from where. Or maybe that she was surprised to see me there. "How long have you been awake?" she asked. I tried to laugh it off. Is it that obvious? She glanced past me, scanning the hut. "You work alone?" Something about the way she asked it made my skin crawl, like she already knew the answer. "Yeah," I said. "Graveyard's always solo." She smiled, but not a friendly smile. Not creepy either, just awkward, like someone learning how to smile for the first time. I asked if she wanted to order, but instead of picking something, she just studied the menu like it was written in a foreign language. Then the questions came. Questions that seemed much more about me than the drinks. "How long does it take you to prepare this one?" she asked. "Is it fulfilling? Do you feel proud when you make it? Do you feel like you're living?" Most people would have assumed she's some crazy wanderer and told her to get lost. But I was too tired, and honestly a little intrigued. At least she was keeping me awake. She looked at me again, her eyes unforgettable, curious. "Why did you agree to work tonight?" she asked. "Clearly you're tired." "Well, my boss needs 48 hours notice. If I bail, I either lose my job or I have to work a shift for free, and my mom and I kind of need this job." She shook her head. "That's not fair." I got a little defensive and explained how it makes sense from a business perspective, repeating the same speech my boss would tell me. "If I don't show up, my boss loses money. I have to be responsible." That's when she snapped. She looked at the espresso machine, the floor mats, the ratty old tip jar on the outside serving ledge. Then she locked eyes with me. "Oh wow, they think you're so weak," she whispered. "I know you're not. You're just busy." I froze. "Have we met?" "In a way," she said, and extended her hand. I hesitated, but I didn't want to be rude, so I reached out through the window. In the second our palms touched, I've never felt anything like it. Dread. Pure, rotting dread. I tried to pull away, but she gripped tighter. Suddenly I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was somewhere else, trapped in a whirlpool of every nightmare I'd ever had. Not the jump scares, not the monsters, but the nightmares that are much slower. The ones that feel real and fester. Deformed faces, family members in pain, a man stuck in the walls of my house. Real-world trauma that I lived but buried deep. I finally broke free from her grasp and stumbled back, collapsing against the espresso machine. My heart was pounding, my breath was shallow, and she was just Smiling. "I see them too," she said. "I feel what you feel. It's okay though. I'm here now." "Who are you?" I asked. "Your kind has called me many names. Fiam, Shaitan, Mara, Old Hag." The name Old Hag actually rang a bell. I had read it online somewhere after several weeks of sleep paralysis. I would wake up in the middle of the night, unable to move, startled by someone in my room, either standing at the foot of my bed or sometimes crouching on my chest. I couldn't see them, but I could feel them. I knew they were a tall, elderly woman with long hair and wrinkly skin. I felt what they felt, a sense of sinister joy that they were paralyzing me with terror. This first time it ever happened, all I could think was, this is really happening. This is really happening. This isn't a horror movie. It's really happening. Then I felt the figure say something like I was reading its thoughts, saying, "You think this is scary? Just wait until 3:23. With great effort and strength, I finally made myself cough and fully snapped awake. I checked my phone and saw that it was just about to turn 3 a.m. There was no way I was going to stick in my bedroom to see what was happening at 3:23, so I snuck out of my mom's house and headed to the 24-hour grocery store a couple blocks away. I walked down the aisles, tired and terrified, until it was well past 3:23. Nothing more happened that night, but I did my fair share of research online to see I wasn't alone. Many people have had similar sleep paralysis experiences, and nearly all of them claim to feel or even see an elderly woman in their room, the Old Hag. Others call her their sleep paralysis demon. Most people have only had one or two similar experiences, but I wasn't so lucky. I stopped sleeping on my back, hung Christmas lights in my room, anything to keep the shadows away, but the sleep paralysis just continued night after night after night. One night, just before drifting off, I felt her at the foot of my bed again, but this time, I had an idea. If fear seems to feed her, what if I starve her? So I extended my middle finger and flipped off the room in protest. I then turned on my stomach and fell asleep. She didn't take too kindly to that gesture. An hour later, I woke up to crushing pressure on my back. My ears rang with the sound of waves crashing in and out. I couldn't move and I couldn't breathe. I just felt her fury burning through my skin. It was the worst one yet. Over the next few weeks, the episodes became less frequent and tapered off. I thought she was gone for good. Until now. But this woman standing on the other side of the drive-thru window was no old hag. She was a young woman, dressed like a local, like someone you've seen in the background of your life, at school, at the store, or in a passing car. Perhaps I'd already seen her around town before. "You don't look like an old hag," I muttered. She smiled again. "Your town is strapped for bodies that aren't worn down and broken. She's the healthiest by far." She? Why was she talking about herself in the third person? There's something wrong with this woman. So I asked, "Do you want me to call someone for you?" Her tone changed instantly. "You're the one in a cage, and I can free you." That's when I finally had enough. I told her we were closed and slid the window shut, but she didn't move. She just stood there in the rain, staring, smiling. Then she mouthed something I couldn't hear and started knocking. After a moment, the knocking turned into pounding, then fists slamming. A spiderweb of cracks spread across the window. Her knuckles bled, but she didn't flinch. "Stop," I shouted. "I'll call the cops." I could have grabbed the butcher's knife by the sink, but I didn't want to kill anyone, so I turned on the espresso steam wand and aimed it at the window. The moment the glass shattered, she lunged forward. I sprayed the wand directly at her face, scalding her with milk foam and steam. She screamed and fell backwards onto the pavement. "Stay back," I shouted, fumbling for my phone. I quickly dialed 911 and the operator picked up immediately. But midway through my frantic explanation, I stopped, because the voice on the other line, it was laughing. Same cadence, same tone as the woman outside. She stood back up, face scorched, hair stuck to her skin, laughing all the same. Then she spoke, but her voice wasn't just outside now. It was coming through the phone, word for word.
I'm crouching on them. I'm crouching on your whole town.
The police, the factory workers, the children, even your mother. This is a dream, I whispered. I must have fallen asleep. She leaned closer to the window. No, you're the only one still awake. What do you mean? I asked. She reached her arms into the window again, trying to prop herself over the counter, but I aimed the steam wand once more. She stopped and took a step back, afraid to be burnt again.
Don't be dramatic, she said. I'm not your enemy.
You mentioned my mother. Oh yes, but she's safe now, sound asleep in her bed, as are most of the people in this town, thanks to me.
Like I said, I'm not your enemy. Do you know who is?
I stared at her silent. She spoke once more. I imagine they're the same people forcing you to work all night when you're only a child. The same people who keep you in constant fear. Fear that you won't be able to feed yourself, or that you'll lose your shelter. Also that you willingly agree to be their slave. You, your mother, everyone in this town, all under their thumb.
Under Endymion.
I'd never heard that word before. She must have sensed my confusion because her face softened. You didn't even know, she said. How little they think of you. I was already terrified of this woman, but what she said next scared me even more. Apparently, the shipping and manufacturing corporation that employed most of the town had developed a new technology for sleep labor, something called Endymion. I'm no scientist, I know nothing about technology or engineering, but according to her, it had been infused into our tap water, allowing the company to use our bodies for manual labor even after we fell asleep. Remote control labor. Profits while we dream. Everyone who moved to the area had signed some contract giving the company complete immunity. It was hidden somewhere in the fine print, but tonight was the night that they decided to experiment with the technology for the first time. I couldn't believe it. How could the town's biggest employer do something so invasive? And without telling anyone? Did they really think no one would fight back when they found out? That no one would care about a little sleepy town or even know we were here? The woman looked surprised at my reaction. I tried to warn them, she said. I saw what they were doing, and every night I visited them in their sleep, hoping the fear would convince them to stop. To not defile a bridge between worlds that are meant to remain separate. She shook her head slowly. But no matter how hard I tried, when morning came, they dismissed me as a nightmare. She told me Endymion had been activated earlier that morning when the night shift workers had returned home for bed. By midnight, everyone in his town had fallen under its control. That's when I realized what she was saying. Everyone, except me. The only person who's been awake for over 40 hours. She nodded, slow and grave. The minute they opened the door, she said, they were able to cross into my world.
And me, theirs, yours.
She stood silent for a long time, watching the rain slide down the broken glass. I'm holding them back, protecting those that sleep. She looked exhausted now, strained. But I'm one voice, wearing someone else's skin, and I have little strength. She stared at me like she already knew where this was going. That's why I came to you. I need you to turn your waking body over to me, willingly, just for a while. The proposal seemed ludicrous. All I could think to say was a firm no. You don't understand. You're close. I can feel it. Close to what? I asked. To sleep. She took another step closer to the window. And if you fall asleep before you help me, you'll be like the rest of them. And soon, I won't have the strength to protect any of you anymore. I backed away from the counter, my hands shaking. Her eyes darkened. I've felt your fear. I know what it's like. I felt the way your boss speaks to you. I've seen the bills come through the mail, thousands of dollars for a 10-minute blood test. What they build exhausts. It's so exhausting that none of you have the energy or will to fight against it. She moved closer again, her face half lit by the flickering fluorescent inside the hut. You don't have to keep suffering. I can use your body to destroy them, to rip Endymion out at the roots. And you'll be the one they remember. She smiled, strange and reverent. You're the perfect vessel. You're fragile but not broken, wounded but still breathing. That's what makes you so powerful. It's what makes you inspirational. She reached out, palm up. They'll call you a savior, a king, the one who freed them. All you have to do is let me in. My throat was dry and I was dizzy and confused. Just let me think, I said. She didn't fight me. She just watched as I pulled out some old cafe snacks from the cabinet, those sad cellophane-wrapped pastries that never expire. I sat on the crate by the counter, slowly chewing, letting the sugar jolt my brain, the steam wand lying on my lap just in reach. To keep my hands busy, I tore off a paper napkin and started folding. I didn't even know what I was making, just some mindless origami, something to keep my thoughts from spiraling. She watched in silence. Then, from outside the window, she reached into the tip jar, pulled out a crumbled dollar bill, and started folding it too, mimicking me. But just as she began to crease the corners, a gust of wind lifted the bill from her hands and carried it into the night. She didn't flinch. She just grabbed another, $5 this time, and tried again. Gone with another gust of wind. Can you stop messing with my tips? I asked. She lifted up her hands like an apologetic surrender. What do you want to do with the people who built this? The ones running Endymion? She tilted her head and didn't answer right away. Her expression changed, calm on the surface, but her eyes filled with something old. Something boiling just beneath. What I have planned for them shouldn't worry you. Just know they will get what they deserve. Her voice was so steady, I felt a chill crawl down my spine. Please go away, I said, and I switched off the outside light. Darkness swallowed her, but she didn't move. I have something you want, she slowly mocked through the glass. I plugged in a nearby vacuum and switched it on, letting the motor fill the room with noise. She didn't flinch. She didn't speak. She just stared. And she didn't stop, the entire night, staring outside the broken window. Terrified, I kept myself from falling asleep, hand on the steam wand. It had been nearly 50 hours now. My head throbbed with static. My body ached. My brain was slipping. I kept hallucinating shadows in the corners, faces in the espresso steam. The grinding sound of the vacuum became more of a chant, chanting my name. Then a spark. The vacuum's motor coughed and shuddered, then died. And in the sudden silence, I heard her exhale. How much longer will you suffer? She asked. I shook my head. You're a demon. Go back to hell. She laughed, sharp and ancient. You have no idea what I am. No knowledge of my world, what I'm capable of. She stepped back from the window, menacingly, and tilted her head towards the road. I told you, she said. I have something you want. I looked past her and felt my stomach drop. Across the parking lot, my mother was walking barefoot in the street. Nightgown draped over her shoulders, eyes closed, sleepwalking. Stop this, I gasped, slamming my hand against the counter. Let her go. I will, said the woman, the moment you come outside. I didn't move. I knew it was a trap. My mom kept walking, slowly and steady, towards the drive-thru window. She stopped just feet away, eyes fluttering open like she was waking from a dream. And then she saw her, the pale woman standing inches away, scorched face, black eyes, And then the pale woman's jaw began to drift open. It widened more and more, far too much to be natural. Her chin cracked downward like it had no hinge. Her mouth kept stretching until her entire face was a black, gaping chasm. "Mom!" I screamed, pounding the counter. She turned, locking eyes with me through the glass. Her face was pale with terror. "Look away," she whispered, but I couldn't. From deep inside the woman's mouth, something moved. 2 hands, thin, soaked and impossibly long, reached out, gripping the sides of her jaw, and something pulled itself out. The creature had long, matted hair. Its skin was textured, covered in what looked like eyelids, hundreds of them, closed and fluttering with eyelashes. It opened its mouth, and from inside came a chorus of moans, human voices overlapping, all caught in the throes of their worst nightmares. I turned my head just in time, couldn't watch, but I heard it. The wet thud as it climbed onto my mother's chest. The gasp she made, like the wind had been ripped out of her soul. Then silence. When I looked again, she was collapsed on the ground, her hair white, her breaths slow. The creature was already sliding back down the woman's mouth, curling like smoke, disappearing inch by inch. Her jaw clicked shut. Her smile returned. She turned back to the window. "What'd you do to her?" I cried. She looked at me, calm again. "She'll wake up, eventually. You'll tell her it was just a bad nightmare and she'll forgive you." She leaned in, close to the window. "Because I saw her too. Saw what she dreams about, how much she loves you, and the things she doesn't tell you. How much she fears for you, how she thinks she's raised you to be incapable of being more, and how much your very existence has filled her life with dread." I said nothing, and she lowered her voice. "But I'm giving you a chance to be something more." I looked down at my trembling hands, wishing I could ignore her. "A savior, the one who ends all this and frees humanity. Imagine how proud she'll be." My mouth opened, but no words came out. I was too hollow inside, too guilty. She softened once more. "It's all right. You're overwhelmed." Then she gestured to my phone. "Play some music." I fumbled with the Bluetooth, connecting to the cafe's ambient playlist. "That's better," she whispered. "You feel it, don't you?" The notes were soft, almost like breathing. "My world is no different from this," she said. "You don't see it, you feel it. But it's real. It has layers you don't understand, frequencies you'll never name, life that resonates and carries meaning between each note, that connects emotions between the sound waves and your very soul." She pointed to the coffee grinder beside me, its dual-edged blade reflecting the sunlight. "Count those blades." I blinked, confused. 2. Set it in motion. I clicked the power button, and the blades spun to life, vanishing in a blur of circular motion. "Now count them again." "I can't." "But they're there," she said. "You just can't see them. Your mind is too slow, too limited. But you could feel them. You feel the wind. You'd bleed if you touched them. Now, blink." I stared into the blur, then blinked, and for a split second I could make it out. 2 blades. The details lasted a split second, but they were there, similar to blinking at the wheels of a speeding car. "That's what my world is," she said. "It's not hell. It's not darkness. It's energy too fast for your eyes to track, like a flash of lightning. But that doesn't mean it's impossible to see it. And when your mind could finally catch up, it won't be afraid anymore. It will be free." She stepped back, hands open, inviting. "All you have to do is come outside. Lost boy, restless wanderer, show me lightning, I'll give you thunder." The lights above began to dim, one by one, and then tiny orbs started to appear, glowing with light. They floated in the air around me, shining with soft blue and purple hues, circling the coffee hut. They moved slowly, like fireflies underwater. One of them danced around the espresso machine's chrome casing, shimmering like it was alive. It was something I've never seen, but it wasn't scary. It was beautiful. She smiled, as if she knew she was winning, but I stepped back and stared her down. I'll never put my faith in someone who hurts my mom.
Her smile disappeared, knowing her antics failed once again.
I spared her, she said. Unlike your enemies, they will keep abusing her until her final breath. You still hurt her. Don't be so small, she said, voice sharpening. You think this is just about you?
You think you have the privilege to be selfish?
I shook my head. I will not give myself to you. Tightening your chains doesn't make you resilient. Throwing an anchor in the middle of a storm doesn't make you brave. Diving headfirst into quicksand doesn't make you a martyr. I said no. She stopped arguing, just stared at me now, eyes wide, burning and full of hate. She stared at me for hours, didn't blink, didn't speak, just stood outside the window, lit only by the flickering fluorescent light and the glowing haze of the evening fog. I drank more coffee, cup after cup, anything to stay awake. My hand never left the steam wand because every time I lowered it, even just a little, she crept an inch forward. But when I raised it again, she retreated, like some unholy game of red light, green light. Eventually the caffeine caught up with me. My stomach churned. I stumbled back and gagged over the sink and threw it all up. Then everything blurred. My knees buckled. I dropped the wand to the ground, defenseless, unarmed, and she lunged forward, trying to pull herself through the window, but collapsed and fell backwards onto the ground outside. She lay there for a moment on the pavement, panting, then pushed herself up and tried again. But her arms were shaking and weak, her face pale. She hadn't eaten in days. She hadn't drank anything. Her body was starved of food and water, her muscles collapsing from within. And suddenly she didn't seem like a monster anymore. She seemed human. I limped towards the window, no longer afraid. "How are you feeling?" I asked. She looked up at me, surprised. "I don't like this."
"What, being human?" I replied.
"It's not all bad. There's fun things to do, places to visit, people who love you, friends, family, partners, good food." "Coffee?" she asked. I smiled faintly. "I think so. Some people don't like it. You've never had it before, have you?" She shook her head. I pulled 2 clean mugs from the shelf and made a pair of Cortados. The espresso sputtered quietly. The milk steamed. I carefully handed her her cup through the window. She looked at it, unsure if she could even drink it. Her hands trembled as she tilted the cup back against her lips. And I swear, for the first time, she looked grateful. "Why are you being kind to me?" she asked. I nodded towards my mom, still asleep on the damp pavement. She taught me. She didn't say anything, just nodded slowly. I sipped mine, trying my best to keep it down. Then I spoke. "Listen, if you're gone before you take over my body, I'll still do what I can to expose that company." She stared at her mug. "They won't care." "Maybe not," I said, "but I'll still try." And then her expression changed. Suddenly she looked confused, disoriented, like something inside her was slipping. From deep within her throat, a new voice emerged, terrified but human. Where am I?" It was the voice of the young woman, the girl, the one whose body she'd been wearing. The demon's voice rose in panic, overlapping the girl's. She turned to me, eyes wide with betrayal. "You did this," she hissed. "You planned this. You tricked me." "What's going on?" I asked. Her hands trembled as she set the Cortado on the ground. I realized the caffeine must be waking up her host. The woman looked up at me with her pained eyes.
Poison her.
You've now only left one path to free those who are suffering. Then she grabbed a shard of broken window glass from the ground and stabbed herself in the chest. The possessed girl gasped in pain, fully awake, and fell on her back. I quickly grabbed a knife from the butcher block and ran to the door, pushing myself outside for the first time in days, but my legs immediately gave out. Scraping against the pavement, I pulled myself to the woman's body. She was terrified, the life quickly slipping from her eyes. Then she glanced behind me, where my mom started to stand up. But something was wrong. Her eyes were glassy, distant, possessed by the old hag. "Mom," I pleaded. In her palm was a jagged piece of glass. She lunged with great force, stabbing me in the leg right below the kneecap. I cried out in pain, doing my best to slide away from her on the pavement. But when I looked back to her, I saw it, the twitch in her eye, the tremble in her hand. She was fighting, doing her best to cast out the spirit within. I reached for the unfinished Cortado on the ground. "Drink it," I commanded. "Come back." She hesitated, fighting for control, moving her limbs slowly like someone trying to pull themselves out of sleep paralysis. But I moved the cup to her lips and tipped it slowly, allowing her to drink. Her eyes flickered for a moment, then suddenly she gasped as if breaking through water. We stared at each other, the warmth undeniable. The old hag was gone, or so we thought. In the distance, screaming. Hundreds of voices, a stampede of footsteps, possessed townspeople sleepwalking straight for us. I looked down at my bleeding leg, the girl beside me, now unconscious. "We have to tell people," I said. "Go to the shipping center.
Film everything with your phone, anything out of place.
They'll try to cover it up once everyone wakes up, but just keep filming. And if you find something called Endymion, shut it off."
She nodded, confused and in shock, but trusting me.
"I will." I pulled the glass shard out of my leg and rolled the bleeding girl onto my shoulder. Somehow, I found a way to stand. My mom nodded again with pride and headed towards the shipping headquarters. Carrying the girl on my back, I limped through the pain step by step towards the nearby hospital for on-the-job injuries. Behind me, the townspeople screamed. I could feel them getting closer, the old hag doing her best to rush me, despite her weakness, despite her fading control. The glass doors of the hospital glowed ahead like a lighthouse. In the second I reached the parking lot, I collapsed to the ground, eyes closed, finally asleep. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed, feeling something heavy on my chest, like a presence, crouching. I froze. Was it the old hag? But when I looked down, I saw my mom sleeping against me, peaceful. She opened her eyes, seeing I was awake, and pulled me in for a hug. "Is she gone?" I asked. "Yes, it's all over. Everyone's safe." Across the hallway in another bed, I saw her, the young woman, awake now, eating some applesauce, healing. "And the company?" I asked. She looked at me with a weak smile. "I did what you asked. I found the source, filmed everything before I unplugged the machine. They denied it all, said the footage was fake and AI. I looked at her disappointed. They don't believe us? Some do. More every day. And maybe that'll be enough." I pondered this for a long while. Is that enough? Or is that sliver of hope just keeping us back from fighting for more? At that moment, I just wished I could ask her about it, the old hag, get her thoughts. But I didn't see her that night, nor many nights after that, until just a couple weeks ago, when I woke up, frozen, staring into the darkness, imprisoned once again by sleep paralysis. At the end of my bed stood a dark, undefined figure, but I knew exactly who it was. "Are you going to kill me?" I whispered. She stepped forward, her voice soft and calm. "No. The wheels are in motion. And when you're finally ready to let me in, I'll be waiting." She turned, walking back into the shadows. But just before she vanished, she whispered once more, "Lost boy, restless wanderer, show me lightning. I'll give you thunder." I woke the next morning with that mantra repeating in my head. Sunlight poured across the covers, and a flock of birds chirped outside my bedroom window. The blinds were shut, and I couldn't see them fly. But God knows I could feel them.